in my fourth book, Light of the Infinite, and this is the chapter, the other side, for the Torah portion, balak. If at every moment you can choose the path that you want to pursue, and as the Talmud states, Hashem will help you toward the path of your choosing, then ensuring that you are in alignment and on a path of positivity is that much more important. It's being mindful of the saying, be careful what you wish for. We shouldn't ever look at ourselves as fully bad or fully good, because that can color how we approach the future, and more often than not, in a negative way. If we realize that at any given moment, we have the power for bad or the power for good, then we can begin to be present, let go of the weight of our past decisions, and choose good. Choose positivity in every moment in which we find ourselves in. The concept of Teshuva, to return, in Judaism is a very powerful part of the practice of faith. The idea that at the moment that a person comes to the realization that they want to align with the light of the infinite, the creator of all things, and with a full heart, with love, and a desire to connect, and forge a new path, it's in this heartfelt sincerity that they are renewed in a sense, and past transgressions between created and creator are washed away. If only all relationships were as easy, if relationships with others could come to a state of peace in which all past trials, tribulations, and misunderstandings were completely wiped from memory, and the impact between ourselves and others, the layers of disconnect and discontent would vanish, then we would realize that they were all manifestations of misunderstandings from our state in exile in the first place. It's believed that before birth we make an oath, be a tzadik, be a righteous person, and don't be a rasha, a wicked person. This seems a bit superfluous. If one swears to be righteous, then why would they have to swear to not be wicked? The Alter Rebbe explains that's because not everyone can reach the level of tzadik, of righteous, and that it's imperative to also swear that we do not fall into wickedness. A person makes an oath to overcome their impulse to evil, and this is the constant struggle we experience, caught between two choices. This state of being is the name of the texts within Tanya that in which the Alter Rebbe teaches that this very lesson, titled The Book of the In-Betweeners. The lesson, if we all have the power to personify that which unites or that which divides, then always choosing the path of the righteous and not the other side, the sitra achra, is the key to revelation. In this chapter's parasha, we read a cautionary tale of the path of the sitra achra. Balak was the king of Moab and felt threatened by the Israelites wandering near his land. With Moshe leading them and Hashem protecting them, Balak had a special power over nature. He used sorcery to manipulate it. But he saw through the miracles of Yetziat Mitzrayim, the exodus of Egypt, that the Jews were connected to power above nature. He knew that he could not defeat them himself, so he called on Bilam, the master of all sorcerers, to curse them. Bilam gained his power, some say Balaam, his power of prophecy from the sitra achra, the other side. His power was in his mouth, his ability to curse a person, deflecting their faith, convincing them to rebel against the divine. I'm trying to see what's going on with this live, because I don't know, I feel like I got shadow banned after I went on with Dor Shachar, who escaped Gaza and converted to Judaism, and I think somebody reported it, and it's kind of crazy. Anyway, I'll continue. So it's clear from the Torah that Bilam did have a special power to connect to God, but there are different opinions of how powerful Bilam actually was. At the end of the Torah, we learn that never again in Israel did arise a prophet like Moshe. The Zohar says that another did not arise in Israel, but there was another among the nations, Bilam. But Midbar Rabbah states that Bilam was a prophet like Moshe, even exceeding Moshe's greatness in certain ways. It's stated in Talmud Sanhedrin that he first was a prophet and then a sorcerer. Ibn Ezra argues that Bilam had no ability to curse or bless, but simply was a stargazer and astrologer. When he saw someone's unlucky moment was to arrive, he would curse them, and when evil would befall that person, Bilam would be credited as if it was his own power that had done it. As we see with the verse, how can I curse? God has not cursed. The Talmud teaches that Bilam planned to curse Israel at that moment of Hashem's wrath, but no such wrath took place on the day that Bilam had intended for a curse. Ramban Nachmanides explained that as a magician, he knew when Hashem would speak to him, whereas a true prophet like Moshe, whose powers came solely from the divine inspiration, never knew when the never knew when the Holy One would speak to him or what would be conveyed. What is clear from all these sources is that Moshe and Bilam were on opposite ends when it came to how they chose to use their immense powers. Moshe was connected to the purity of the Torah, while Bilam was steeped in impurity and wanted to uproot the Torah. Moshe attained his supreme level of oneness with the infinite light by seeking the highest levels of service to God. Bilam, on the other hand, chose the lowest levels of impurity, so low that he was known for bestiality with his donkey. The greater a person's sanctity, the greater their ability to attain Torah. The lower the moral level, the more likely the person is to oppose the Torah. Here is a people that came out of Egypt. This is a verse from this week's Torah portion. Here's a people that came out of Egypt and hides the earth from view. Come now and curse them for me. Perhaps I can engage them in a battle and drive them off. Rabbi Moshe Feinstein points out that Balak says that the Israelites came out past tense from Egypt, while Bilam later says they will be coming out in future tense. The difference between the tense is its implication is massive. Balak thought that Israel was likely, or like all other nations, and that they had forgotten the exodus from Egypt. Bilam, on the other hand, knew that Israel would never forget, that it's an obligation to remember that we were redeemed from exile by Hashem. Balak didn't see the future or trust in the faith Israel would constantly fight to keep. He was only worried about that present moment. Israel covered the surface of the land when he saw them, but he believed they would forget the miracles they had experienced and would assimilate into the nations. Bilam said that the Jews would last forever, as long as they held on to their faith. But he feared that Jews would influence the entire world, that everyone would see the holiness of their ways and subjugate themselves to the kingdom of priests. Bilam, in trying to explain the limit of the powers to Balak, says, and this is another pasuk, a verse from this Torah portion, "Behold, it is a blessing that I've taken, and such a blessing I cannot reverse." The word blessing is written here twice. The first is pronounced berech, with the first vowel being on the kamatz, which means closed or sealed, and the second one pronounced berech, which with the first vowel being etzeri, which alludes to lehitzayer, which means to take shape. Rabbi Nachman in Likutei Maran expounds on the meaning behind this. Hashem's light, which descends upon us, is an undifferentiated and unformed, meaning a sealed state. It's up to each of us to create that vessel with which to receive this light, so they can take shape within and through us. If a person's vessel is faulty, it doesn't mean that light won't come to that person, but the person won't have the capacity to shape the light into a blessing. That's why the verse says, "It is a blessing that I've taken," as it's up to each person to perfect their vessel so that they may receive and keep the divine blessing. We cannot choose our blessings or how much light we will receive, but we can continually work to make ourselves vessels that are open to receiving and giving these blessings of light. This is an important lesson in giving proper respect and perspective to what formed you. Proper gratitude for the people and forces to which you owe your life. That kind of perspective and thankfulness is essential to creating a vessel that can receive your proper share of the infinite light. Another pasuk verse from here, from this parasha, "But God said to Bilam, do not go with them. You must not curse that people, for they are blessed." So Rashi, the foremost commentator on the Tanakh, says, Hashem said to Bilam, "You shall not invoke a curse upon Bnei Israel." So Bilam said to Hashem, "I shall bless them." But Hashem replied, "They do not need your blessing. They are blessed." Rashi alludes to the proverb, "They say to the wasp," some say a bee, "We want neither your honey nor your sting," explaining that Hashem rejects Bilam's offer of a blessing for Israel because just as gathering honey involves the risk of being stung, so too the blessings of the wicked are not altruistic. There is always evil mixed into those blessings that aren't said with pure intention to give to another. Then Balak said to Bilam, "What have you done to me? Here I brought you to damn my enemies, and instead you have blessed them." The Khatam Sofer shares an epic insight into the Kabbalistic interpretation of this verse. He notes that we have 354 days in the lunar year, 222 of which carry an air of Hashem's attribute of judgment, din, which is why we have the custom of saying tachanun, supplications, nifilat apayim, on those days. This leaves 132 days in which we do not say tachanun, since on those days Hashem's attribute of mercy, rachamim, dominates. With this in mind, it is believed that Balak went to Bilam to curse 132 days of mercy, so that the entire year would be dominated by Hashem's attribute of mercy, din, in the hopes that Israel would never benefit from Hashem's unlimited mercy. But when the curse was changed into a blessing, the opposite occurred. In the 222 days when judgment was present, mercy was introduced, so that now the full year has elements of mercy. The Hebrew word lakev means to curse, and has the numerical value, the gematria, of 132. 30, breaking down the letters, plus 100 plus 2, 132, and the word berech, which means blessing, has the gematria 222. 2 plus 200 plus 20. Combining together to make up 354 days in the lunar year. Balak was telling Bilam, I summon you to bring a curse into 132 days of mercy, so that Israel would be subject to exacting judgment. Instead, you bless the 222 days to be times of Hashem's mercy. The Alter Rebbe shares that there are mystical texts that demonstrate an inherent connection between Bilam and Amalek, and an illusion. And Amalek is this nation or notion that we're tasked to be rid of. An allusion to this belief is clear when we write out their names on top of one another. When combining the first two letters of each, Bilam, Bet, Lamed, and Amalek, Ayin, Mem, it spells Bilam. And if we connect the remaining two letters, Bilam, Ayin, Mem, and Amalek, Lamed, Kof, it spells Amalek. I don't know if you can see this, but it's over here. You can get my book. It's on page 109 in Transformation in the Desert of Darkness. We are taught to rid ourselves of the klipa of these two personalities, forces, and attributes. We have to strengthen our ahava, our love of God, and yirah, awe of God. We see the relationship between these two fundamental feelings of faith when we look at them in the same fashion. If we place yirah on top of ahava and combine the two letters of yirah, yud, resh, with that of ahava, aleph and hey, this spells yirah. When we do the same with the remaining letters of these words, aleph and hey, and bet and hey, we see it spells ahava. I know this is difficult if you don't have the book. This means that Amalek was able to wage war against Israel because they descended from Esav, arguing that being a great-grandson of Yitzchak had a great-great-grandson of Avraham gave them license to speak out on matters relating to the Torah and holiness. It is through Yirah and Avah for Hashem that we must not allow even a slight opening to become the person about whom it is written, they know their master, yet purposely set out to rebel against him. When Israel wasn't diligent in this way, Amalek would attack. The Talmud stated that it is the same with Bilam, a descendant of Lavan, who argued, the daughters are my daughters and the sons are my son, and all that you see is mine. Bilam was arguing that he too is related to the Jews because the tribe of Israel developed from his daughters. The moral is that at times someone may demonstrate their connection or relation to you only to deceive you in straying from Torah and mitzvot, commandments. At this time, it is that much more important to lean into Yirah and Avah of Creator, and this person must be told in clear terms, we have but our Father in heaven. Our sole criterion for anything is the Torah. Neither pedigree nor anything else of that sort is decisive for us. The Torah is the exclusive touchstone and standard. Whatever accords with the Torah is fine, but if something conflicts with the Torah, even if it comes from Bilam or Amalek, the very fact that it is counter proves that it has no bearing upon us whatsoever. It's when we are strong in our Yirah and Avah of our Creator, that Bilam and Amalek, the nation and notion that the Torah commands us to eliminate from the world, that we can fight the safek, the doubt, and fear which try to deceive us and stop us from connecting to the emet, to the truth. This parasha is meant to remind us of the ways we can and do use speech to either bless or to curse. Our rituals connected to the Torah give us so many opportunities to bless. Every day, multiple times a day, the Siddur guides us to say, Hashem sifatai tiftach, ufi yagid tilatecha. O Lord, open my lips and let my mouth declare your praise. In Talmud Brachot, Rabbi Yochanan says that before every prayer, one should recite this verse, and when they finish praying, they should say, may the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable before you. As we covered in this parasha, in parasha Shlach, in Sephardic tradition and some Hasidic traditions, one says the L'Shem Yichud, blessing before doing any mitzvah. Chabad says it before Baruch Shamar and is meant to apply to all mitzvot throughout the day. It reads, for the sake of the unification of the Holy One, blessed be He in His presence, in awe and in love, to unite the name Yud-K, the masculine part of the divine, with Vav-K, the feminine part of the divine, in perfect unity in the name of all of Israel. Peace is brought on by our unification with Hashem, with God. As a result of our spiritual exile, we are far removed from the Edenic state and our godly souls. Reciting this verse with pure intention is meant to rectify the disunity and concealment. When we speak these blessings, we bring into our own seemingly divided reality. We bring unity into our own seemingly divided reality. So balak says in this pasuk, in this verse, "Come then, put a curse upon this people for me. Since they are too numerous for me, perhaps I can thus defeat them and drive them out of the land. For I know that he whom you bless is blessed indeed, and he who you curse is cursed." Coming from a place of darkness and a desire to bring a people down through cursing them will only bring harm to oneself. That's the lesson of those who bless shall be blessed. If you are one who gives blessings, it means you are a vessel for blessings. The potential for light is limitless for such a person, as good begets good, and blessings beget blessings. This verse illuminates how dangerous it is to connect with the sitra achra, the other side. A curse is not something that a person can hope for as a one-time thing. If you can't wish ill on someone and not be affected by it yourself. Cursing another, trying to break another's vessel, is a fracturing of one's own vessel. So Hashem's light, God's light that could descend into and through you, is deflected and diffracted by our own self-fracturing. May we take this opportunity to heal our fractured vessels, reconnecting to the spirit of blessing, pushing away the sitra achra, and inviting the light of the infinite. Shabbat shalom, guys. Love you.